Hi guys, and welcome to another episode. Today I have commandeered Domenic Thomas again, the CEO of Worbli. Domenic, man, always a pleasure to sit down and chat. And what's the latest? What's been going on? I understand we're gonna talk a little bit today about the resource model and kind of some of the revolutionary things that you're doing with that.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Good to be back. I know it's been a bit, holidays and stuff, but we've just been cranking. We're just completely focused on getting some stuff launched. That's what this is all about. Everybody wants to see use cases. Worbli was pretty much built around use cases. That's why we went so heavy on the compliance and some of the other infrastructure we've built. So, the latest is that we finalized the details around the resource model. Looking to get something published probably near the end of the week, pretty close right now, but I can definitely get into the overview a little bit. And then we're looking at getting our first app launched here, hopefully 2 or 3 weeks. I don't have an exact timeline right now, but that's the UtilityX token trading platform. And that's also going to be where the resource model lives, so that they kind of go together. And we had Tokenoro go live, as everyone knows, which has been great. They're already raising money, so a lot of exciting stuff going on.
For sure. Yeah, let's talk about kind of the resource model. As I understand, it's really different from a lot of things that might be happening in EOS and maybe in crypto in general. How does that kind of work?
So the difference for us is that, on Worbli, if you get through our due diligence process for launching an application, we have to make sure you're properly compliant. We have a very heavy emphasis on security, right? So we do some security auditing of the code, and it's a process. But if your app meets our standards and we think it's a good fit for the network, then we're going to give you the RAM that you need, just like we've done with the user accounts. And so we're really trying to just take RAM out of the equation. But what's left is, of course, bandwidth and CPU, right? So CPU, we've seen some of the challenges that mainnet's had. We don't really anticipate, because we're not looking at any gambling applications or anything like that. That's just doesn't quite fit with what we're trying to do over here. However, we still know that it can be a potentially scarce resource. So we don't want a scenario where we've got a bunch of people who are just holding the token, right? They're supporters. They're not sure if they're ever going to launch an application. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But, those in our system, those tokens represent network resources, right? That's the whole point of the Worbli token. If you've got 10% of the Worbli tokens in your possession and you want to stake those, you can get 10% of the network's resources. So we don't want to disincentivize people for holding tokens, right? We definitely want holders. They're supporters. They're the people that likely participated in, some of our pre-sale fundraising. But, there is inflation on the network. And so we don't also want their holdings and their part of the network to be inflated away. So there should be a reward mechanism for them making their resources available to the network. So that's kind of how our system works, right? If you are just holding the tokens, you're not launching an app, you're not sure if you ever will, maybe you won't. We want you to say, okay, well, I want to make those resources available to the network. And so we're going to have a kind of a unique system, and we're working out the terminology here because, staking's not quite the right word. Staking means that you're going to have access to those resources, and you can still do that. For example, let's say that you're going to have, a ton of transactions going on. I don't quite know the scenario. Maybe you're some kind of power user. Or you're going to decide you're going to give all of your friends 10 Worbli, and you're going to do 1,000 transactions because you have 1,000 friends. You might need a little bit more CPU than the base that we make available with the user account. So you can stake for something like that. However, we really expect the applications to be doing the staking for users. We're trying to make this easy. We don't want to see users having to stake for anything in the future. That's why we have the free accounts. And so we want to make sure that there's a system that works, that's incentivizing everybody to kind of do the right things in the interest of the network. And so when you lock up your tokens, and that's kind of what we're calling it now, we're going to have a process where you can lock them up for 30 days. And then depending upon the amount of network usage at any given time, you get rewarded accordingly, right? So early on, when there's nothing going on the network, you don't get any rewards because giving your resources back to the network didn't make a big difference, right? If nobody needs it, we shouldn't really be incentivizing people just to stake a bunch of coins because we just have a network maybe with, 100% of the tokens staked and everybody's just collecting interest, but there's no real value being created on chain. So it's kind of like a scale that goes sort of like this, right? When you first lock up and there's not a lot of usage, the rewards are lower. But then as the usage starts to go up and there's greater demand for network resources, the amount of token rewards you get increases. But then as we start to get to a point where the network's reaching capacity, the rewards go back down again. So we're going to be publishing the hard math here soon. But the reality is that we're trying to incentivize this sort of equilibrium of network resources with the token rewards that you get for giving your resources back to the network by locking up your tokens at looking like 30-day intervals right now. So you'll lock them up for 30 days, and then you'll participate in the network rewards over that 30-day time period, and then it's tied to network usage. So the more apps, the more activity going on, as the network grows and usage is increasing, you'll get more rewards. And then as the network starts to reach capacity, you get less rewards. And part of the reason for that is that if the network's starting to reach capacity, then at that point, token prices should be going up, right? Because there's more and more demand for access to the network. Whereas, of course, when you finally get to the point where you're so close to capacity and demand is high, the token price should be rising, and therefore block producers should now be incentivized to expand resources, right? Now it should be like, oh, okay, we need to actually add RAM, or we need to increase network capacity in some manner. Now, CPU is a little bit limited. You can only go so far technologically, right? Like we kind of run into the laws of physics here in EOS because we don't have multi-threading yet. CPU kind of maxes out at a certain point. Nobody knows the exact limit yet. I don't think we've reached it, but I'm hearing that we may be as high as 10,000 transactions per second when we get through some of our optimizations. We've got some great teams that are really well known. We just added Attic Labs actually as one of our reserve block producers. They're really into the hardware optimization. So is EOS Titan, EOS DAC, right? We have a lot of really technical teams on that. But, we're working on these things to get CPU as to be as high performing as possible, but it will run into a limit eventually. So it's all about getting everybody properly aligned. That's really what we're designing.
And from our conversation earlier, I guess the intent ultimately is to really kind of hit that adoption rather. You want to be able to create a network where people can come on with maybe limited knowledge and maybe not have to stake in order to use applications, just kind of have resources on demand and available. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. These types of things we're talking about now, right? This stuff is really interesting to those of us that are already fairly advanced in blockchain, right? This is probably expert level stuff in the future. It'd be kind of like an individual right now who could explain to you, all the routing that's going on behind this Zoom call, right? They could say, oh, well, that's running through a secured server over here. And then there's someone's routing the bandwidth, and your router's, your kid's on the iPad back there. Well, that means it's 4 channels, right? And they could get into all that really deep stuff about how the information's passing in this video conference call between you and I. I think all of us in blockchain right now forget that that's like what we are all talking about all the time. These are pretty advanced things that the average user doesn't need to know anything about. They don't really need to understand how CPU and bandwidth and RAM work on EOS. That doesn't make any sense. The average user is not going to take the time and energy to learn all of that. And so in our user account of the future, we don't see users needing to stake for resources at all. We're going to see that, over time, as we start to get some better data, we'll know, for example, that we need to make 25 transactions a day available to all users, right? And then we'll create like a limit around that. And then anybody going above that will need to stake. But what we'll likely know that anybody doing more than 25 transactions a day is probably more of an expert user, and so they'll understand the staking mechanism, and they'll know how to stake, another 1,000 Worbli tokens or whatever to get the bandwidth they need, or the CPU they need to do those transactions, right? But a regular person who's just going to log on to, the crypto fiat gateways that we have in development and send money from the United States to, somebody in sub-Saharan Africa, they're just going to create a Worbli account, go through AML KYC, bam, have an easy-to-use dashboard, wire up money to the local, bank routing number that the gateway's provided, and then, the stuff's going to, the money will appear in their account. They'll click on the Worbli username of the person in Africa and send the money. It's done. They're not going to get into anything else, and that's the system that we're trying to build.
Yeah, I think that's going to be key in really kind of bringing users in. You want to keep it simple, you want to keep it clean, and you want to make it usable. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we've been kind of dropping some hints about the ongoing share drop. And I know that you guys have been kind of thinking about that in the back room, but where is that conversation ended up at this point?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of logistics that go into the share drop. It was always about creating a give back opportunity to, mainnet EOS account holders and giving people an opportunity to come over, check out Worbli. We also thought it would be good to incentivize some of the early users. They've been, absolutely, invaluable in testing this process for us. I know we've taken a lot of flack for it. It was buggy at first. We understand that, but it was really the first time anybody's done something like this and really tied it all to a blockchain, and then combined it with sort of a snapshot of another blockchain, right? Like, we didn't have a real roadmap for this. And so we appreciate everybody's patience, and we hope that they're satisfied in the Worbli they received for participating in the process with us. And now we really need to move into the next phase, which is claiming for multiple accounts. And I think everyone can see that's been a hot topic in the Telegram channel. We get asked, I see half a dozen posts a day about it. And so we're looking at a deadline to close off the initial part of the share drop, where you make your first claim with your first EOS account at the end of February, and then use the last 3 months of the share drop period to really focus on getting all of those people through AML KYC, through the claiming of their share drop, and then allow people to claim for multiple accounts, because it needs to be closed entirely by May 31st, because that's our deadline to do a token burn then on June 1st.
For sure. And for anybody who's kind of initiated an account by that date, they'll be good to get their account?
Yep. So as long as you've at least started the process by, the end of February, so February 28th, we'll create a UTC time for it or whatever, right? It'll be UTC 0 on March 1st or whatever. As long as you've started the process, which means you've come to the website and you've put in your email to begin the process of generating a Worbli account, will allow you the next 3 months to finish that process, whatever stage, whether it's AML KYC verification, claiming the share drop itself and connecting your EOS mainnet account, right? And then the multiple account claiming as well. So we're looking at the multiple account claiming feature to be available in that, first couple weeks of March. Hopefully right away on March 1st, but I don't want my tech team to kill me and give a hard deadline. I know they're working on it.
For sure. And I want to talk to you about something that I'm actually personally really excited about, and something that I've talked a lot about in the Telegram. And I know, of course, you're not going to be able to provide everything at this point. Certain details are still getting knocked out, but the first security token came out. Token Row came out. I thought that was amazing. I was really impressed by it. I think it's super cool. I think it's a really interesting idea. But more than that, it's the idea of the idea and this coming of security tokens that I'm really, really excited about. And I'm not the only one. We saw a really good article written by Brock Pierce saying that STOs are kind of the new wave of the future. What are perhaps some of the benefits of STOs as it relates to financing somebody's business?
Yeah, well, we think there's massive potential here, and a lot of people are talking about it. You're referencing Brock's article. I was at a conference recently last week, and there was it was a couple-day conference. There had to be half a dozen panels over 2 days about security token offerings and what they mean, what are the regulatory environments, all of that stuff. I think we're seeing the maturation, right? The natural maturation of fundraising in the industry, in that, many projects that were part of the ICO craze and, sort of 2016 and 17 most likely are securities. They were definitely offering people a return on the investment, right? They don't pass the or whatever, they fail the Howey test. They are a security, and so we need a vehicle for that. But it's not an all is lost thing. I think when people start who remember the ICO days, the idealism was that, anybody could become a part of it, right? You could get in with your $10 in the early stage of a company that might go 1,000x, right? And that $10 is $10,000. And that's amazing, right? There's a huge opportunity there, but we've also learned that $10 could be $0 real fast. In that there should be a process for fundraising that's compliant and that protects people, because we forget about that part. It's nice to be on the side of the ICO that you got into, and again, 1,000x's, and you're sitting there with your Bitcoin Lambo, but very few projects actually did that in the end. And I think that what we need is a process that makes sure that projects are legit, right? That the company that's seeking your hard-earned money for investment is actually going to do what it says it's going to do, and then it has a reasonable chance of success in doing so. And so I think the security token offering is kind of the answer to that. Companies are still required to go through a certain amount of due diligence to even offer it. It's a security. It says it in the name. You're not pretending anymore. You're not trying to skirt around and say, oh yeah, we're going to open this for-profit entity, but we're not offering you any dividends. Wink, wink, nod, nod. There's no, it's just early access to our, crypto fiat, debit card program. It's just for utility. It's like, no, it isn't. It's a for-profit entity, and that's okay. Nobody needs to be ashamed of that or worried about that. But we need to get real. There needs to be a process that's making sure that companies are demonstrating the type of financial responsibility that ask people for money. And so with Tokenoro, it's really not about Tokenoro, and it was kind of a bit disappointing for us and the team. We were really excited about that announcement. We thought the community was going to go nuts. Maybe we didn't do a good job kind of connecting the dots, but whether you like Tokenoro as an investment, that's that. If you're into gold, you're into gold. If you're not, don't worry about it. Don't buy Tokenoro. We think it's a great project. It went through a lot of due diligence with us for months before we even decided to kind of bring them in as our first offering in the security token market. But it's not about Tokenoro. It's about the fact that in offering Tokenoro, we've got one of our block producers, EOS New York, building a security token offering platform, right? They're building an application that anybody will be able to offer an STO in the future, right? So there'll likely be hundreds and eventually thousands of these on Worbli. Companies bringing their security token to us because we've got the AML KYC. We've got the security token offering platform that automates a lot of the processes, makes it easy for them to do the offering. And then we're also going to be navigating every aspect of the compliance process along the way in conjunction with Tokenoro as part of the partnership. So, we're going to be creating the blueprint to allow this to happen over and over and over and automate this process in the future. So it's a big deal. And then, I know I'm going on here, but to talk about why is that a big deal, right? So why is a security token such a big deal as opposed to an IPO? You and I were talking before the video, and there's tremendous costs in offering an IPO. For people who aren't familiar, I encourage you to do some looking up, but I pulled up a quick link here of a PwC article, and they're saying the average cost is $1 million to $2 million, and that's just like getting your IPO to the point where it's gone through all the regulatory processes and you've dotted the I's and crossed the T's. That doesn't then include the investment bank who you need to actually take your IPO public for you and do all of that. They get a bunch of sweetheart deals, percentage of your stock, early stock shares and offerings that they get to execute before the general public. It's literally millions and millions of dollars that go into this. And it's about a 1 to 2 year process, apparently.
Yeah.
You know, that's huge. This is the first one we've ever done. We started talking to Tokenoro last fall. You know, we're able to strike a deal with them after, you know, 3 or 4 months of due diligence. And then, you know, here they are. They know they're doing the security token offering. They're already out there with accredited investors, and this app's due to go live like early to mid-April, you know, and they'll be able to start taking in these accredited investors and doing all their fundraising. It's not going to take 1 to 2 years. Now, before we can offer it to anybody and beyond accredited investors, they need to get the certification from the U.S. government, the SEC, that they've registered, that they are doing a security offering to the general public. But even that's about 9 to 12 months, we're hearing. So still, as opposed to 1 to 2 years, we're talking more like accredited investors immediately and then 9 to 12 months for regular users. And we expect that to get shorter. We're already trying to, we're having discussions with broker-dealer organizations so that we can get one who has a kind of an exclusive contract with the Worbli network to do the offering for us. And then, you know, these individual companies won't have to go through the process of registering their security offering individually.
This is why I'm so excited, Domenic, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. And this is why I'm so amped up about Worbli and why I spend so much time with the project and why I spend some of my free time inside of that chat, because I'm really interested in what you're doing. We're talking about, and I'm going to say potentially, because there's still some mechanics to be worked out, but potentially a new way of a business bringing itself for public investment that is faster, cheaper, completely legal. With less headaches, less red tape, smart contracts, removing a lot of the paperwork that's necessary in order to be able to make micro shares, be able to cut this in small amounts and offer it. Like, this is huge, right? This is an STO platform that may possibly completely revolutionize the way that businesses do business and the way that they offer themselves for investment. Like, and that's, to me, that's massive. And it's one of the things that I'm really, really passionate about, what Worbli is doing, man. So I just, once again, I always love talking to you, Domenic. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to do this again next week. And
yeah, we're going to definitely want to stay on it. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. You know, we're getting close to being able to give a little more information about the crypto fiat gateways, the decentralized insurance platforms in development. That's going to be another really revolutionary way to manage the reinsurance market. And allow people to participate in that, which at this stage you're not getting anywhere near unless you have an insurance broker license. So that's something that's pretty exciting. You know, it's all about access. You know, we keep talking about the fact that the why are we doing this with Worbli, right? We're doing this because we want to create access. We see that there's been, you know, this history of certain, you know, investments, investment products, you know, access to banking, you know, so many of these things have just been like black boxed, you know. Right now, even, you know, the STO thing, it's allowing you to get potentially, the cool thing about ICOs is you could get into the early stage fundraising of some amazing companies. You know, imagine if you could have gotten into the seed round of Facebook, right? Or the seed round of Uber, or the seed round of Amazon, right? There's no way. You were never touching that. You had to be an accredited investor, and then they were going to go to their Series A, their Series B. That was all going to be through VC. You know, nobody was going to be able to access to that except a certain group of people in the world. And then, yeah, you've got to wait for the IPO, at which point, you know, Facebook IPO, they were already worth billions and billions, right? The market cap was in the billions. You know, sure, if you'd gotten into Facebook then into now, you still would have made some good money. But nowhere near the people who got in the seed and the Series A and the Series B rounds, right? So it's opening up that. this insurance market. No one can participate in that. I mean, you could get into some, I think there's bond funds and things around the insurance market as an investor that you can get a piece of, but you can't get a piece of individual policies, and collect some of that passive income on the premiums. This is what we believe in. This is what we're excited about. And I don't think we've talked about this enough, but Worbli is about these opportunities for everybody. It's about bank accounts for everyone. It's about investment opportunities for everyone. It's about generating wealth and getting a financial system that's fair and accessible to as many people as possible. And we believe that the impact that will have on humanity is gigantic. 2 trillion unbanked people right now, or I'm sorry, 2 billion, most estimates, unbanked people, right? Over 25% of the population on Earth, they can't participate in this global economy. Because without a bank account, you can't do that. Everything's hyper-local for you. It's cash, it's trading, it's hand-to-hand, it's the people you can see and interact with on a daily basis in your community. You're not starting a web startup. You're not selling your services online even, right? You can't, this gig economy that everybody wants to get all jazzed about. Oh, now it's opportunities for people to freelance all over the world. Not if you don't have a bank account, it isn't. Not if you don't take PayPal, right? If you can't open a PayPal account, you're screwed. So imagine if 2 billion people would now have the opportunity to start contributing to the global economy. What kind of wealth could that create? Right? How could that change the world? That's amazing, right? That's something that's worth, so far a year of my life, no sleep, and my hair getting grayer by the day. But, that's worth it. That's amazing. That's something where I can go back. Everybody who's supported this project, over the last year, people like yourself doing the videos, like, guys, we are out here trying to actually make a difference and do something meaningful that if we pull it off, you'll be able to talk about for the rest of your days and know that you are a part of that. Your kids will be able to know that you are a part of that. And we may not, we're not going to be the only ones, but we're starting that trend. We hope there'll be other projects and there'll be apps on Worbli and there'll be other blockchains. But this is the promise of blockchain. It's about access, and so I can't wait. I can't wait to get this stuff launched. It's going to be a great couple of quarters here. And all I say to the people who have supported us so far is, you ain't seen it.
It's a beautiful place to end off, buddy. I look forward to talking to you next week, man. I know the future looks good.
Yeah. Talk soon, Matt. Thank you.